Our second topic will be housing affordability and supply. With housing availability and affordability identified as growing concerns, what steps would you take to increase the supply of affordable and workforce housing in Eau Claire? Do you support the city's recent zoning updates and funding allocations aimed at housing, and what further actions are needed to ensure workforce and vulnerable populations that have access to suitable housing? What would you do to improve relationships with surrounding townships to work towards this additional tax revenue the new housing would bring? And Jeremy, we'll begin with you.
All right, thanks, Bob. Yeah, I think, I was a renter in Eau Claire for 20 years before I ended up buying a house. So, some of that, I think stability of housing is something I've definitely, felt and as a priority. And so I do think that, having a variety of housing options for people is very important. I think our zoning code overhaul helps try to achieve that, helps open up more options for infill development and for people that own their existing home to make improvements on it. And so a lot of the focus, on the fact that we have a lot of affordable housing right now that is maybe deteriorating, that needs extra investment. I think there's things that we can do to invest in energy efficiency or help homeowners do that and access state and federal programs. The low-income housing tax credits, I feel like, are still a good option for the city. We were actually, during my 6 years on council, there were 2 applications that were successful just during that 6-year period to build affordable housing options, and it was, I think it had been a long time since anything like that had happened in Eau Claire. So that was a big success, and we have more opportunities for that in the future. In terms of working with surrounding towns, the comprehensive plan is an opportunity to make sure we're planning regionally and with our neighbors, and that we're opening up lines of communication that maybe haven't been as collaborative or as easy to have conversations within. I was, on the council when when there's been some pretty major annexations, and I rode my bike out into the town and talked to people in their driveway for hours and days to understand their concerns and see how we can work together. And it's definitely a process that I'm interested in working on still. Thanks.
Scott.
Right. Thank you, Bob. One of the things I've mentioned, I was at the chamber for 12 years, and it seemed like the last 2 years there, I spent more time in city council meetings than I had in the previous 10. And a lot of that was the housing issue, the zoning code rewrite that was going on. And what was actually exciting about that, I think, is that not only did the business community, the home builders, the realtors, but also the Jonah Affordable Housing Task Force and other affordable housing advocates were on the same page in working really hard to help make sure the zoning code would facilitate housing supply increase, facilitate more affordable housing. We didn't get all the way there and all the things that we were working for, but it is a step in the right direction. We are going to have to monitor it, so it's not like we undertook this 2-year process and now we're done and just let it happen. We'll have to see if it actually has the results that we were hoping for. We also have naturally occurring affordable housing. It's very expensive to build housing, so that's a challenge. It's interesting to see what Altoona is doing. They've just started a program, thanks to some additional funding that was available to them, to really work on improving housing for people in the lower income area. And then it is important to be working on compact development, on infill, on careful growth. And then the city needs better relationships with its neighbors. And I think that's something I can work on. And then not only reviewing the current zoning, but as the comprehensive plan is done, we need to look at that. We need to make sure zoning is consistent with that. But supply is really a big part of it. We can't have more affordable housing if we don't have more supply. It's not the only answer, but it's a very, very big part of it. And it's been an issue I've been working on probably most aggressively over the last 2 years, and I would continue that work if I were city council president.
Okay, Scott and Jeremy, we have a couple of follow-up questions to this topic, and this will be a 1-minute response to these follow-ups. And Scott, to you, given Eau Claire's 2026 capital budget allocations and the zoning changes which specific initiatives would you prioritize to quickly address the housing gaps?
Well, one thing to mention about, so the capital budget hasn't been talked about yet
Okay.
for next year. The one that we're having issues with right now is the operating budget or the general fund budget. But we do need to carefully look at those kinds of things. I think it's time for the city to look at what are the most productive uses of its capital dollars and where do they bring additional revenue to the city later. Obviously, if we can address some of the housing issues, the redevelopment authority right now is working on a new zone that would look at how can we have infill housing and how can we undertake some measures to make more affordable housing within the city. And that's also one of the most efficient way for the city because you already have the infrastructure there to support it. So those would be some of them. Working to make sure, that's right, I only have 1 minute here. So I think working to get low-income housing tax credits is another area.
Okay, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, one of the things that we created when I was on the city council was an affordable housing fund that we put into our capital budget. And, it really has helped, projects get across the finish line. Sometimes it's cobbling together a lot of different funds and there's, I would say that there's a lot of ideas that kind of come forth from the community and from different nonprofit organizations that work in housing, like Habitat for Humanity or the Hmong Mutual Assistance Association, where just by the fact that we had we were putting money behind our commitment to do more for affordable housing, like it brought together different partners and ideas and proposals that we maybe would never have heard about before. So a priority for me would be to continue to have an affordable housing fund, and the Housing Opportunities Commission can help us do that.